Okay.
So the pastry is lovely and buttery and crispy.
Nope. Nope.
I shouldn't even try it.
Nope. 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 Nope.
Wow, he's not even going to chew it. So the pastry's really good. Wow.
Welcome, friends. Welcome back to the kitchen. Welcome back to Sunday morning and the old cookbook show. We're going to do another recipe out of this old cookbook. This is the Battersea Polytechnic Training Department of Domestic Science Household Cookery Recipes. Undated. As so many are. But I had to look through the University of Surrey archives. Battersea Polytechnic gets absorbed into the University of Surrey. And according to their archives, this was published probably 1914 or 1915. No one can give an exact date, but it's kind of in that range. A lot of good recipes in here, a lot of good technique. And we're going to make something called beefsteak pie. Now, beefsteak pie, the first part of the ingredient list is for rough puff pastry. So we need to make a rough puff pastry. Full disclosure, I was at the grocery store yesterday getting the ingredients for this, and I was just going to buy a roll of pre-made puff pastry, and they were out. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go the whole nine, and we'll make the rough puff. There's no, as much as it gives the ingredients, it doesn't say anything about the method. It tells you to go to the pastry section. So we go to the pastry section, and the rough puff pastry recipe is there. Seriously though, there's no shame in buying ready-made puff pastry. And I've never made rough puff, mostly because I kind of think that puff pastry, actual puff pastry, is easier to make. So I've always shied away from this. So here it goes. Flour, salt, and I'll just take a fork and we'll stir that up. Nothing big. And then cubed cold butter. And so I've cubed this up, or roughly cubed it up. In that goes, and toss it around with the flour. Now the book admonishes you not to break down the butter. And I can see Paul Hollywood over there in the corner giving me stink eye as I make this. Anyway, so I think we've got the butter fully coated with the flour. You want the butter to stay in larger chunks because that's going to help give you the puff. The water in the butter is going to help give you the puff. The steam from the butter is going to help give you the puff. Now the recipe just says to add water to bind to a stiff paste, not how much water. So just a tiny bit of water at a time, and cold water. And I'll just use a fork to sort of mix that at the beginning here to keep my hands out of the mixture as much as possible. Didn't take much water at all. I'd say, I don't know, maybe 5 tablespoons. I didn't really measure it. I just poured it in as I needed it. Yours is going to be different. The flour that you're using is going to be different. The temperature, the humidity on the day when you're doing this is going to be different. So you're going to need a different amount of water. You have to, when you're baking, make decisions. As much as it's a science, it's an art. And part of that art is being able to say to yourself, I think that looks right. Let's give it a go and see what happens. So I'm going to bring this into a bit of a ball. The recipe doesn't say anything about resting it, but I do know from making other kinds of pastry that at this point, sticking it in the fridge and letting it rest, wrap it up, letting it rest for 20, 25 minutes before I do the first roll is going to be helpful. Okay, so we'll just transfer this wrap it up tight and into the fridge. Okay, here's the deal. So we're laminating this dough. Even though the butter is in the rough puff version, the butter is mixed in blobs instead of in thin sheets like it would be in a regular puff pastry or croissant dough for that matter. So you go back and forth into the fridge because you're going to roll it out and then you're going to you're going to get to a point where you have resistance and you can't roll it out anymore. You've got to let the dough rest. So we'll roll it out once, stick it back in the fridge, take it out, do a roll and fold. You want to roll and fold probably 4 or 5 times. It says in here to do it 4 times. There's a point where you've reached a point you've reached a point where you're not going to get any benefit by doing it more. That whole million fold thing. You might be able to see it here. There are some big chunks of butter. And essentially what we want to do is roll this out lengthwise. And you can see that it's still not coming together quite right. Don't despair. It will come together. Everything is going to be fine. It is breaking apart right now on me, and it's going to be difficult to fold it because it'll probably crack, right? But here's the thing. Next time, it'll come together quite nicely. So, want to, there we go, fold that like that, and we'll do this side. Bring our plastic wrap back in, wrap it up, back into the fridge, another 15, 20 minutes. Okay, so 15 minutes have gone by. We'll pull this out. From this point forward, it is just repetition. So the only change that we make each time now is, let me get this out. Last time we rolled it lengthwise this way and folded it like that. We're going to turn it 90 degrees this time and fold it out the other way, roll it out the other way and fold it back. And it's just going back and forth like this, back and forth, until you get the full 4 rolls or 5, depending on how many you want to go. And probably after the second or third one, the dough is going to come together a little bit better. Yeah, so that came together quite nicely this time. So we're going to fold it same sort of way, over third, back, and rewrap. So like I said, from this point forward, it's just repetition. I'm going to do this probably 3 more times, I think. You want at least 4 folds. We've done 2 at this point. I'm going to go 5 and see where that gets us. I'm not going to show it to you. We'll just come back and we'll start making the filling. So it's actually tomorrow. Had a bit of a problem yesterday getting everything done. So I put the rough puff in the fridge and I just kind of set everything aside. Obviously, if you were cooking for your family, that would be a problem because you wouldn't have any dinner. But for me, it was okay. So we're going to move on to the filling. I've got the rough puff. It folded several times. I think I did 6 folds, and it came together really nicely. It's been in the fridge. Needs probably about 10 minutes out at room temperature before I can roll it out to the right size. The recipe doesn't tell me what size pie plate or pie tin to put it in. I'm thinking probably the smaller one based on the amount of meat, but I'm going to mix the meat together first and then we're going to figure it out. Now, the recipe tells me to use a pound of beef steak and 2 ounces of liver. And then we're supposed to toss it with flour. Now, we're not going to cook it ahead of time, which I think is kind of weird because I would think that you would kind of cook it and make a bit of a stew beforehand, but apparently not. We just toss it with flour and salt and pepper, plop it in the tin, and then put the top on it with a little bit of beef stock. I gotta tell you, I didn't eat a lot of organ meat growing up as a child. So in goes this beef steak, and that has been cut into fairly small little cubes. And next in is the kidney, also diced up. In that goes. Like I said, I didn't eat a lot of organ meat growing up. My mom would cook liver for my father. So on the nights when my dad worked the night shift at the fire hall, so he would, there were like 3 nights and 3 days, or I forget what the exact shift number was. But anyway, he would work nights on a regular basis, and he would eat dinner early. My mom would cook liver for him, fry liver for him, and then cook my brother and I and herself something different for dinner because she said organ meat shouldn't be eaten. And so I guess I have that bias. You know, that's what I'm trying to say. I have that bias. And when I was cutting up the beef liver, the smell was just horrific to me. And I know that's my own problem. I know that's my own bias. I don't know what it's going to taste like. I do know that I got 2 pounds of beef liver for $1.25 Canadian. And that seems like an incredible steal to me. If it tastes good, you could make this into a budget meal. Really, by cutting back on the amount of actual beef steak, using a little bit more liver, and maybe popping in some mushrooms or beans into the filling. I know that's going to anger the traditionalists, and they're probably already typing, but I'm looking at this and thinking, I'm going to make the recipe the way it's written, because this is the Old Cookbook Show, and that's what we're supposed to do. But I would add mushrooms. I would add some beans. I would add peas or corn to this as well. I think that just having this meat isn't going to make this a particularly fantastic pie for me. So, which pie dish? It's not much to clean them, so I'm going to try the small one first. And I think that's the right decision. Okay, so there we go. Small pie tin, beef and kidney, filled almost to the rim. Looking good. Now, I'm supposed to roll out the pastry a 1/2 inch thick, bigger than the size of the pan, and then I'm supposed to put a strip of the pastry onto the pan and then put the top onto that. The idea is, I guess they want you to have a really puffed up, thick edge around the pan. We'll see how that works out. We'll see how well I get this rolled out and whether I can cut something that actually makes sense. Okay, so get some flour out on our bench just so it doesn't stick. And now I have to try and get this round and 1/2 inch thick. That's about a 1/4 inch. And it's bigger than the pie sheet. I probably overrolled it. Anyway, we're going to now lightly cut out the round that we need. And that's going to leave me with some pastry. That I can use to make the other ring. I was trying not to cut into my countertop. Okay, so we'll set that one aside. You know that I don't ice cakes, right? That's because this fine detail work just isn't me. So what I've tried to do is cut another ring that should go on the outside of that other pan there. Let's see. And then this, we're going to cut into, I don't know, leaves and other shapes to put on top. I wish I had more of it. So we're going to wet the edge of our pie plate. This is metal. It's not really going to wet all that well. I'm going to cut that. And that's not going to stick to that at all. Now, before I put the lid on, I'm supposed to pour in half a gill of stock. There we go. I'll go around the edge again with water. And then on with the lid. Now I'm supposed to cut a hole in the center so the steam can escape. I'm torn as to whether to take the piece out or leave it there and just let it kind of float in the middle and let the steam escape around it. No, I'm going to take it out. Otherwise it'll make a mess, I think. So take that out. Now we need to do an egg wash. So let me get a fork. I've used the pastry that was left and cut little leaves, or as close as I can get to a little leaf. So we'll do this egg wash. Just there we go. Back in with our brush and brush the top. And then we'll take our little leaves and put them around the middle. I don't know. Put that. Oh, it's a little jumping boy. There we go. Okay. Egg wash. And I'm going to cook this on a tray. Into the oven we go. The instructions say a hot oven until the top is puffed up, and then we turn it down and let it bake for about an hour after that. Okay, I'm glad I put it on a tray because it did bubble over.
It looks pretty fancy though.
The
Little extra here, Glen. Hey friends.
The oven was probably, the oven was probably too hot when I put it in, and you know.
But that's okay. This looks fancy though.
The rough puff worked out.
Oh, look at you and your rough puff.
I was gonna cheat and use store-bought puff pastry, but I decided to make the rough puff from
Good for
scratch.
you. Good for you.
Well, let's cut it open and see what happens.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds crispy.
It does sound crispy. Huh. Okay, I'm going to soften your disappointment.
Okay.
My own disappointment, too. A few weeks ago, Julie came home from this great bakery with a meat pie, and we cooked it, and we were both unbelievably disappointed that it only had a top crust. There was no bottom crust. I was devastated.
I remember that. I'm like, what? Okay, yeah.
This is the same. There is no
only
bottom. There's only a top crust. So there's,
Scoop it out?
yeah, let's see.
Yeah, because it was just a single serving one.
Yeah. Huh.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, I think a fork is in mine.
Yep.
Isn't needed. I like that it's still steamy.
Yeah.
I'm afraid though.
Go ahead.
I want to start with I'm going to just rip off a piece of pastry and try it first.
I'm going to go right in for the... Okay.
So the pastry is lovely and buttery and crispy.
Nope. Nope.
I shouldn't even try it?
Nope. 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 Nope.
Wow, he's not even going to chew it. So the pastry's really good. Wow.
Ah. Ah.
Wow, has that ever... I don't think we've ever had the run and spit it out moment before. What is about it?
Can't you smell it? Even when I was cutting it open, I could smell it.
Could you tell me more? The pastry's really good.
Kidney.
Oh, is that what the kidney was in? Just that little bit of kidney you put in there ruined the whole...
That is a flavor I cannot abide.
Well, if I like it.
No, if you like it, you've got a whole pie to eat. If you like it, go right ahead.
So there's just a little bit of kidney.
There's 2 ounces of kidney. Only,
Is every meat part kidney then?
no.
Okay, so what's in? Now I'm curious. Like, so what is in it?
So I bought the cheapest cut of beef I could find, which was a round steak.
Yeah.
And I chopped that up. So there's a pound of that, and then 2 ounces of kidney. And so I can only buy a whole kidney. It was 2 pounds of kidney for like $1.25. I've got more kidney than I guess chicken. Does chicken like kidney? I'm gonna cook the kidney for chicken. I'm going to eat the rough puff pastry. I'm not going to be afraid of rough puff pastry anymore. I'm going to embrace it and use it in all kinds of different things.
Okay, so
I would make this again. Go ahead.
I don't clearly need to spit it out. Would
Okay.
I say, woohoo, let's have this again? No, I'm like, it seems like it's missing something.
Oh, it's missing lots. Yes, no, there's very little.
I'm not as...
I don't want to offend anybody who is English because I know steak and kidney pie is a thing. This is from the Battersea Polytechnic Household Cookery Recipes. So this is from their domestic science school within the Polytechnic University. They use this as a teaching manual. There's only salt and pepper in it.
Did you get like the one piece of kidney or something?
I must have got a whole fork full of kidney. Yeah.
Because I'm not having that overwhelming flavor of anything beyond it being meat-like.
Okay.
There
Not
you
for
go.
me.
So it's not for Glen. I guess I get a whole pie.
I would make it again. I'd cut down on the beef. I'd cut out the kidney. And I would replace it with mushrooms and beans.
Oh yeah, mushrooms would be great.
Mushrooms, beans, and some other flavors. And I would do this exact same
Okay.
thing. But the puff pastry,
You did try
pastry's
some
great.
puff pastry.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay,
I
I
don't
didn't.
know.
I missed that. I guess I was trying to taste the
The
other.
rough puff is great. Mm-hmm. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, so steak and kidney pie, not for me.
So that being said, you'll never see it again.
Never see it again. Maybe if you loaded that with so much ketchup.
Well, maybe that's what it's about, right?
So much ketchup. But the rough puff pastry, you will see again. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.
You really hated that.
I'm gonna have nightmares about that.
I don't find it that awful. It just tastes like meat to me. Well, I gotta tell you, the puff pastry is really good. I have to stop eating it. We have to do a shake and shot.